Hi collectors, hope you're all well. Today's episode is directed primarily at those thinking about getting into this hobby, the new or soon to be new collector, and I suppose it could be a refresher or a reminder for the not so new collectors as well. You see, while I don't have any regrets about my own collection, I was reflecting on my own experiences and wondering how it might have been different had I had more information or thoughts at the beginning of my own journey. So take this episode not with a grain, but a shipping container of salt. As I often say, I'm no expert, I don't have all the answers. My thoughts are in no particular order, so feel free to rearrange them as they pertain to you or where you are in your collection. I'll begin by emphasizing that you should collect what you like, and then you won't be disappointed. And don't collect as an investment path. So many, probably everyone, will tell you that toy soldiers are not a hedge against inflation, are not the road to riches, and cannot make up for a viable retirement strategy. No, collecting toy soldiers is a hobby, a pastime, and hopefully a rewarding experience.
To that end, you can try to collect the beach, so to speak, or simply choose a scale and period in time or a theme. Medieval, American Civil War, World War I, World War II. The list is endless, and it could intersect with your own particular interest in a historical period, or where you live, what you can afford, or your own personal history. Makers generally make what is popular, or follow historical anniversaries, or tried and true product lines. But there is enough variety and even more in the second-hand marketplace to enable you to get started. There are even some great resin and plastic figures being produced to help fill out your collection, if that works. Some people collect only from a specific maker. Over the last century, there have been a lot of manufacturers, and it can be difficult to collect based on those that no longer exist. Well, there are sources of information that can help you identify a maker. This could be a difficult and possibly expensive effort. Some past makers focused on just a few themes, so bear this in mind as you look. Many of today's manufacturers also offer a limited choice, or should I say, a limited window based on their perception of current market demands, or limited runs and thus limited inventories. I know, a lot of limited here, but this is a reflection of what the market is, and honestly, the number of potential buyers and their demand is not what it might have been in the first half of the 20th century. Here, I'm thinking of William Britton's King & Country, Thomas Gunn, John Jenkins, Frontline, Fusilier Miniatures, etc., etc. And often you may have to go to smaller makers or, as I said above, the second-hand market to either fill out your collection or add variety to it. Before you get yourself in too deep, a good place to start is a toy soldier show. Think Chicago, London, Toronto, San Antonio, to name just a few, or smaller venues put on by societies or associations. For someone starting out, this is the best way to get a first-hand look at the hobby. Meet some vendors, speak to the makers, encounter other collectors and ask questions. Gain an appreciation of the prices and what is out there. Not to mention, make some purchases at market prices. Are you artistic or would like to try your hand at painting? Then purchasing castings is a great way to fully immerse yourself in the hobby, or go one step further and do your own castings. Maybe you're like me, all thumbs and lack the required motivation, then sticking with buying figures already painted and ready to display. But then again, you're left with choices. Do you go with gloss, matte, or museum quality? Gloss have that toy-like charm, they look great and are colorful, while matte or museum have more detail, more lifelike appearance in their shading and nuances. But there's also an associated cost with that. And while you're doing all this thinking, what about props for your figures? They're not a requirement, but putting a figure on a stand or adding a bridge, a picket fence, stand of trees, or a building facade can give your figures context or prominence. Now that you have selected what you're collecting, let me add this word of caution. Manage your expectations. To me, this caution means collect what you want or like, but don't do it overnight. I've said this is a journey. Take your time, do the research, have a budget in mind, figure out what you're going to do with your collection the day before, not the day after. It's as much about the hunt as it is the feast the day after. A budget is often seen as a negative, a restriction or break on what we want. Don't fool yourself. This hobby can become very expensive very quickly. Need more proof? Go online and check out the major manufacturers' retail prices for a single figure or armored fighting vehicle. So take the time and decide where are you going, how to acquire the pieces you need first, then go for the ones that add to your collection. Yes, some pieces can be hard to find, but that is part of the hobby. And if you can't find it, maybe there is a casting that will suffice, or a previously loved version on eBay or at a show. Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither should your collection. And yes, there was a budget to building Rome. But decide on how much you are willing to spend this year or at the Toronto show or local auction or even online. After you've made your purchase, keep the boxes. I know when we were kids, we ripped open the boxes and eventually tossed them out in the rubbish. Today, keep the boxes. Yes, it cuts your storage capacity in half, but the boxes have value. They can serve to protect your pieces when you rotate them out in your display. They provide information about what you have. And I would add, keep your receipts as well. I know that sounds anal retentive, but if you want to track your figure's history or provenance, that's the best way to do it. Along with this thought, I would encourage you to keep an inventory of what you have. Yes, I know it sounds like work, but knowing what you have will save you hassles down the line. Let me explain. Keeping an inventory allows you to log the item, its maker's model number, the price you paid, where you bought it, and any other pertinent details. This will help you to comprehend what you have, what you lack, the sources of your figures, to track prices, and help you avoid duplicating, overpaying, or not being even cognizant of what is in your collection. This inventory can be online, it can be a simple book like I have, or sheets of paper. And here's the final word on inventory. When you liquidate or downsize your collection, it could help as you become a seller versus your previous role of buyer. Or simply help those who are managing your estate post-mortem. Yeah, did you think you'd outlive your collection? No. In this way, you could avoid the funeral service at 11, yard sale at 12:30. So what are you going to do with your growing collection? Leave it in the closet? Place it in your attic? Or some storage depot on the other side of town? Don't be crazy. You bought them for a reason, right? So display them. And here I remind you about thinking ahead. Have some idea of how you plan to display either on a shelf, in a display case, or something even more grandiose like a room dedicated to your collection. The limitations are only space and imagination. As you can see, I have a number of display cases of varying sizes, and I'll let you in on a secret. These two were left at the end of someone's driveway on garbage day with a free for the taking note. Yep, didn't cost me a cent. This one I bought at a thrift store for about $100. And these two I bought at antique stores. This used to be in a bakery to display cookies and pastry, and this one was in an old pharmacy. Now with some cleaning up, they showcase part of my collection. And yes, you can go to a furniture store, look for some store liquidators selling used display cases, or scrounge online. but take the time to find something that will fit your space and showcase your purchases. So you're out in the market for toy soldiers, but where to go? You're going to have to go online. The days of brick and mortar are disappearing in this hobby. Some still exist, but not likely near you, and that is a shame. For those of us who can remember walking into LaBelle's in Toronto, the Toy Soldier Market in Ottawa, D'Artagnan in Montreal, Tradition of London, Under Two Flags, the Guards Toy Soldier Centre, and countless other great havens, it has become more an online effort. Some great stores still exist in Europe, Australia, the USA, and Canada, and they also have an online face. There are certainly many, many more, and if you know of any, please leave a comment for others. I suppose lastly, I would argue that keeping abreast of changes in the hobby can be accomplished through magazine subscriptions, joining clubs or associations, and attending shows or engaging online. The point here is that information is power, and by acquiring this knowledge, you are ultimately going to make more informed choices and decisions, enhancing your enjoyment and pleasure. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if so, please hit the like or subscribe buttons. I'll leave links for any newcomers to help enhance their journey. Thank you, and keep collecting.